Yes, finally another gaming monitor in for review, and I definitely want to try to get more of those in the future because it's still quite a challenge for me to make those reviews, and that's why I want to make a different approach in terms of presenting you this review. I want to give you the best possible amount of information in the easier to digest way. That's why I will pretty much only show off what I'm seeing. That should be easier for me to explain it and easier for you to understand what I'm actually talking about. If you like this approach, please let me know that in the comments. Otherwise, I would say let's start off with the review of the ViewSonic 2457-mhd. And one thing we have to set straight from the start, this is a budget gaming monitor. So don't expect to see things like Quad HD or 144 Hz, because everyone who's looking into a budget gaming monitor is most probably also using a budget gaming PC. That's why this combination is totally legit, and we should take a look at it. And starting off with the ergonomics, I just want to point out one thing. Yes, it wobbles quite a lot, but how often will you actually do this? Okay, let's get into the first thing. Here you can see the monitors from the side straight up, and here you can see all the way to the front. Not a whole lot of an angle, but usually this is what you get on all other monitors as well, but therefore quite a nice amount of tilt angle towards the back, so all is good here. In terms of the front, you can see it looks quite okay. Definitely not super elegant or super compact or so, but for this price, this is absolutely okay. One thing that I wouldn't have liked to have seen though is the whole amount of gloss on the foot and also on the 60mm wide bezel, which maybe isn't the first choice if you want to use a multi-monitor setup, but I don't think you will do that with budget monitors anyways. On the back you can see already that we have a VESA mount and that the monitor stands a little bit crooked. That's just what it came out of the box. Here we have the controls, the buttons on the back, which you will see now here from the front on the bottom right. I have to say I'm not the biggest fan of the whole arrangement because one is for the menu and also back. 2 is for contrast, but also for enter. Down does what it says, same for up. And we have a gaming button along with a power button. But this whole arrangement, since the buttons are on the back, is not that easy to use, quite a little bit hard to grasp for your mind because you can't really feel the buttons all that well where they are, but they function very well. So set it up once and just forget about it, I would say. On the right side, we have the port for the power cable. And on the left side, we have DisplayPort, HDMI, VGA, yes, still there, and 2 3.5mm for headphones and microphones, and the CAN lock. Now, let's get into the OSD real quick. I just don't want to waste too much time here because you get all you need. Yeah. Contrast and brightness, you get of course input select, audio adjustment options. Here you can see color adjust modes, for example sRGB, which I would recommend you to stick with because it looked already the best way, unless you want to use user color and have a little bit more control options. Of course information here, manual image adjust where you can set for example the sharpness from 0 to 125% steps. I wouldn't really go over 50 because there I saw quite a lot of over sharpening and double contrast going on. Otherwise, for example view mode, here we have standard, movie and so on, and gaming even gives you some extra presets for specific types of games. Quite nice to see. Response time gives you options for standard, advanced and ultra fast. I would just stick with either standard or advanced. Ultra fast felt a little bit weird. Black stabilization, for everyone not knowing what this is, if you have a dark game and you want to have some competitive advantage, you can kind of brighten up the darker areas. I personally don't like this so much because it diminishes the overall quality. I want the deepest blacks for the best quality, but that's just me. In the setup menu, of course, you see things like OSD position and so on. Not really much to talk about here. Now let's get into a few values just real quick because I did my Spider 5 checkup. You can see brightness with around 330, lux is absolutely fine because I used it at about 60, would have been already enough. 70 was already quite bright. Black values are fine, and the contrast, even though adjusted 900 to 1, actually appears to be really good. What was really nice to see though is the white point of about 6700, which is quite close to the desired 6500. So 67 is quite good. Now in terms of sRGB, surprisingly high, 99%, Adobe RGB 77. Why I wouldn't use it for video editing though, I will tell you a little bit later on. As you can see, gamma a little bit on the wobbly side, the gray values are okay as well, and here we can see everything together. Now let's get into a few of the qualities. Let's start off with the white. Doesn't maybe look super uniform on this picture, but I have to just point out on pictures it only usually looks a little bit more extreme anyways. This is what it looks like, so quite uniform, and the white point was great and overall a nice white. This is what blacklight looks usually in a normal lit room, so quite good. If we heavily overexpose this just to make the imperfections visible, you will see some little bit of flicks in here and some imperfections. Something that you usually shouldn't be able to see though, because this is heavily overexposed, as I said, and you will only see this on a complete dark picture in a completely pitch black room because this is really, really faint. One thing that you could see though in a normal darker room, I would say though, are the white bluish stripes here on the edges, kind of the edge light. Didn't really bother me too much because I usually focus on the center, but it is visible and just something that I need to point out. And I would say this, or maybe like this, is what it usually looks like in a normal lit environment. Now in terms of viewing angles, this is straight up front looking at it, but I have to say the viewing angles are actually very stable all the way up to the front. Not a whole lot of change, very stable here. This looks a little bit weirder, but we have seen that we have quite a tilt towards the back, so you won't really use it as these angles anyways. Now, as you can see, quite a heavy angle already on the side, so quite stable for a TN panel. I did not expect it to be. As you can see here, it diminishes obviously, but this is still solid. Now, one thing that I want to point out here, if I watch my own videos, they look way too over contrasted and way too bright. I guess this is just due to my picture, because when I watched normal things like TV shows, YouTube videos, everything looked way more normal. So it's pretty much just mine, but I wanted to show you the extreme here also for the viewing angles. This is normal. This, as you can see, gets a little bit more towards the yellowy side already. So here you see a little bit more diminished, but as I said, only on my videos. Here on the front with the complete tilt towards the front looks way more extreme than it looks actually in reality. So pictures definitely don't show the reality. Same goes for here. Now, let's show one thing. This is the video side by side to my Dell monitor. And you can see it actually looks quite close. Actually, both aren't calibrated at this point. I just wanted to have the stock settings here. But this is just to show the extreme once again, because if you will look at anything else, it will look way more normal. And that's why I would actually like to already go into the gaming. Here you can see that accuracy or panels qualities aren't absolutely the problem at all, because we had really nice deep colors, very nice saturated, very good contrast actually, because when I reviewed the Dell 2716DG, which was a Quad HD TN panel with 144 Hz, not even that one delivered me those really nice, really saturated, just nice balanced colors. And especially the contrast looks really, really great, because looking at it halfway decently straightforward front, you won't notice any sort of viewing angle shifts, and everything looks just right, because there you don't need a 100% accurate picture, but it looks very pleasing. And especially if you use blacklight stabilization, you will see also things in the dark way better. But I have to just say, I'm actually surprised how good this turns out to be. This though is a 75 Hz panel, which was really nice to see that I could use those 75 Hz actually also without the FreeSync option that is available here if you have an AMD card, which I didn't have. So quite nice to have that. And of course 75 Hz isn't all that much, but it's better than 60 after all. But on a budget PC you won't really push too much more, in my opinion, frames anyway. So I wouldn't really bother about 75. This is still fine, and it's very nice, smooth picture. It was great. One thing that I have to point out now is low motion blur, and also, for example, low input lag, because for someone like me who's not a competitive gamer, the low input lag was absolutely fine. I did not really notice any perceivable shift of time when I press the button and when it reacts, so all is good here. And I have to say that also the low motion blur was really nice to see, because we have that option you can set on, but everything felt sharp to me, because we have a 24-inch panel here with 75 Hz, and it is sharp at all times, because especially 1080p with 24 Hz still is a quite nice balance in terms of sharpness and overall. And I didn't really notice any blur. Of course, if you're a heavy gamer and do some extreme fast movements, you will notice that, but I usually play racing games like you can see here, and then I was really happy because I just got a great picture, and this is what it comes down to me. This is just something that I want to see, and this is what makes me happy. So I'm pleased to see that. So for gaming, I would say this is actually really good, and I have no further complaints here. And that's why I would just quickly want to summarize the pictures or the panel's qualities. I like the white, I like the blacks. They are not perfect, but the viewing angles are actually way more stable, because just sitting halfway decently, and even sometimes on my monitor setup with an angle, it didn't bother me at all. And especially the nice saturated, nicely balanced colors that actually were out of the box already quite accurate. I didn't really need to adjust much on my spider to get a beautiful picture, and it was only my own video that looked a little bit weird. So that's why I would say let's go into the pros and cons. It is an actually very accurate panel. I just have to give it to that, which is nice to see. We have a good brightness. I didn't really use more than 60, which was fine. We have good whites and blacks, and as I said, an actually quite good gaming experience. Of course, quite good compared to the rest that is available, but on a budget segment, actually really good. Then low input lag, low motion blur, which was fine to me. If you are a more competitive gamer, you have to decide that on your own, but I was fine. We have FreeSync, but what was nice to see, we had also the option for 75 Hz without FreeSync. So this is nice. And the value with $130 for what you get here in this quality range, no problems here at all. Now what's not that great is, as I said, the wobbly stand that I don't see as a big issue. The OSD navigation was very inconvenient and very annoying, but I wouldn't really use it a lot anyway, so not a huge problem either. What could be a little bit more of a more common issue is the blue whitish edge light that could annoy you a little bit. It didn't bother me so much, but especially if you play many games in a dark environment that are on its own quite dark, it could be an issue. Just to point that out. And like I said, my own video looks a little bit slightly weird, but all normal video looked fine. So you can watch TV shows and everything else on this and enjoy this. So let's wrap it up. For $130, would I recommend it? I actually don't have a hard time because I don't really know the whole competition here. I checked on some sites what is available, but from what I've seen, this is actually one of the more affordable ones with 75 Hz, with FreeSync, with a nice 1080p panel, with an overall good quality. And ratings on Amazon seem to approve of that, and the other reviews that I've quickly glanced on just before I got it to see what is awaiting here was absolutely fine. So I can't say this is the best one available, and of course we have to just think of one thing once again: budget gaming monitor. You just won't get the best experience, but on a budget level, I don't really see much wrong because, especially like I said, it is the calibration, it is the nice amount of colors and overall panel qualities that did fully actually satisfy me. So no problems here to recommend it. Like I said, I don't really know the competition so much, so maybe check out some other reviews. But as for what it is, for the price, for what you get here, I don't see anything wrong with it. And yeah, that's it. If you like this a little bit different approach in terms of the review, let me know that in the comments. And otherwise, I would wish you a nice day. Until next time. Bye.